This is what I do for a living.
We're always looking for these Goldilocks planets, which are very rare, which may inhabit life.
It's very hard to create a universe which is stable. So some people think that our universe is special among all the different kinds of universes.
Theoretical physicist and science popularizer Michio Kaku appeared on Joe Rogan, and he does a great job of describing a very compelling argument for the existence of God, even though in the context, that's not really what he's trying to do. He's just doing the math, he's reaching conclusions, and he's expressing and explaining the implications of the physics as he sees it. So, but listen to his language. He uses language simply and logically, and it brings up questions about science, about religion, God, mind, evidence, and what the Bible has to say. And that's the kind of things we love here at One Life Network and love to talk about. So let's check out the conversation, and I'm going to follow the conversation by pointing out one thing I think deserves to be really reflected on deeply, because it has a lot of implications for life and belief and doubt and all the above.
Here's a theory that says that the Big Bang went in a direction compatible to life, and that other universes may not be compatible with life. They may be lifeless collections of electrons and neutrinos, for example, but our universe is special. Our universe has stable protons, out of which you could create atoms, out of which you could create DNA, out of which you can create people. How many?
Notice to hint, he's already used our universe is special, and he keeps saying the word create, and it's just kind of part of how he's expressing himself.
Universes have that property. So string theory, for example, gives you other universes which are probably dead universes, universes which have no life. But our universe has stable protons, stable DNA, stable forms of life. So our universe is rare. So this is called the the anthropic principle, the feeling that our life is not random. Our universe is special.
Otherwise known as the fine-tuning argument for the existence of God. Again, he's not giving that intentionally. He's just kind of representing someone who's just talking through the physics.
Our universe is special in the sense that it didn't have to have life, but it does. And life in a spectacular array of diversity. So our universe really is special.
But is it special because we don't know of any other universes?
Yeah, but the other universes that we played with, mathematically speaking, are not compatible with life. Stars burn out too quickly. Galaxies simply fall apart. Protons disintegrate. It's very hard to create a universe which is stable. So some people think that our universe is special among all the different kinds of universes, that our universe is unique because it's compatible with stable protons and DNA.
But it's hard for most people to even grasp the concept of other types of universes or other universes, period, or the fact there may be an infinite number of universes.
Well, that's the multiverse. String theory probably has an infinite number of possible universes. We are probably the only one that has life in them. We're not sure about that, of course. But these other universes are collections of dead subatomic particles, a mist, a floating mist of dead subatomic particles that don't do anything. If the proton were not stable, then our universe also would be like that. Our universe would disintegrate almost instantly. The fact that our proton is stable is quite remarkable.
Do you believe that that's unusual?
Unusual. In fact, maybe unique. There are probably very few universes with stable protons. You see, string theory gives you many, many diverse solutions. So we can actually look at these other alternate universes, and we see that they're not compatible with life.
And why do you think that? But if the proton is stable here, what would it be about these other universes? Like, what qualities would they possess where it wouldn't be stable there?
Everything would decay down to electrons and neutrinos. So it would be a gas, a cloud of electrons and neutrinos, which are the lowest state of matter. You can't get any lower than an electron and neutrino. That's the lowest state. So these universes would basically disintegrate. They would fall apart into a cloud of neutrinos and electrons.
Now, the most fascinating thing about this, in my view, is that he's assuming the entire time, and we all do this, that they can do it based on the math. He just said he's talking about mathematical models, but it's legit because it reflects back how the universe is structured.
Our universe has stable protons, out of which you can create elements, out of which you could create DNA, out of which you can create life. That's a miracle.
That's a miracle. Hey.
So it's just because of these calculations that you've done where it says if the universe had different properties, you would think that this is rare.
Very rare.
Because there's so many other possibilities of how the universe could
If stars burnt out more quickly, for example, because the nuclear force was stronger, stars would never ignite. If the nuclear force were weaker, stars would never form to begin with. If gravity were too strong, we would have had a big crunch and we'd all die in a gigantic fireball. If gravity were too weak, we'd all freeze to death because we would have a big crunch, a big freeze. So all the parameters of the universe are tuned just right to allow for life.
Wow.
Now, there's two ways of looking at it. One way that some physicists have proposed is that we are the crowning achievement. We are the only universe that's stable, that has life, that has the diversity that creates life. The other possibility is that there are just lots of dead universes, and we just won the crapshoot.
Doesn't that possibility jive more with the state of the universe as we understand it? Because we're always looking for these Goldilocks planets, which are very rare, which may inhabit life or may have life on it. But we look at our own solar system, and there's just us.
In other words, there could be a Goldilocks zone for universes.
Yes, just like there is for
zone
planets.
for solar systems, of course, is the Earth is not too far from the sun, not too close. But we could be in the Goldilocks zone of possible universes. And that's why we're here today to talk about it.
So, but there also could be an infinite number of universes like ours, and also an infinite number of universes that are completely incompatible for life.
That's right.
I think he kind of spoke for all of us just by doing the sigh there, because it's just so wild.
This is what I do for a living. We work with these. We work in the multiverse.
Yeah, no wonder why you don't watch YouTube. Do you have time for recreation?
All right, so there's a few things there. Again, I said I wanted to get to one main point, but it doesn't need to be pointed out. He expressed, and I wanted you to see it because he expressed the fine-tuning argument, and it is a big question. Why are the parameters so exact, and why do we have them? And then I see that as a layman. I'm not a physicist, and most of you aren't either, but I see that all the way down to, I would say, the existence of topsoil and fresh water versus salt water and all the things that we have that life demands and adds up to. But notice that he said tuned, he said miracle, he says the word create over and over again. Again, he's not arguing for that. I don't think he is a Christian. He wouldn't consider himself that. But here's the larger issue that I think is very important to point out when it comes to all of this. So I was, just the other day, I was reflecting on some tragedies that had happened recently. There was a plane crash in Washington, D.C., and there were some other things that happened in the world that made me think, gosh, life seems so random, and random adds up to tragedy. Things can happen that you don't expect and all the rest. And it does cause me to kind of get darker in my belief or my doubts about God and why is that, and I'm not new to that. But then I had to step back a little further, and I said, okay, but wait a second. I have the idea of randomness in my head, and that's a meaningful concept. If I'm disillusioned over the randomness that adds up to tragedy, it assumes that there's this meaningful thing that I define as randomness, as opposed to something that's ordered or something that's designed or something that's intentional. We make those distinctions all of the time. We can't help it. That's how our brains work, and we have these as truly meaningful categories. When you say something is designed, you mean it. So I walked out and I was thinking about this. I had dropped my grandkids off at school and I was walking outside the building, and I looked up and I thought, well, the building itself is a system of order that originally existed inside someone's mind back there somewhere. They just had this picture in their head, and then they transferred that over to someone who could design up the draft of it, and then construction workers looked at the draft and it gave it ventilation systems, gave it windows, gave it the floors, gave it moved it towards the purpose that it would function for, of having kids inside of there. And we take that kind of thing for granted all the time, but we live inside of a universe and inside of our own minds where intentionality and not randomness is a part of it. Now, I bring that up because he keeps using that language because he can't help it. Because we see order, and we see if something looks complex, like a building or whatever else, we automatically assume that there had to be more advanced intelligence and intentionality going into that. And that's a meaningful category to us. We also know that if we were to make it to Mars, if you found something that you could determine, even if something primitive looked like a tool that had purpose, you would automatically assume intelligent life was here. You would never have to see that intelligent life. You would just say there was intelligence here. If you saw something like language written down, it would be even more so. You would think a higher intelligence here, and you would never have to see that intelligence. That's because intelligence has markers. And that's what we need to remember. So when people who are naturalistic in their view of things are trying to tell me that my meaningful category of order versus disorder and intention versus accident that I function on all the time, I see it in the human world. When I look out in the universe and it's on that scale almost infinitely, according to physicists like this, I'm told to think that it didn't come about through a mind or intentionality or design or something like that. And it's hard for me to accept that. So and I think it should be hard for you to accept as well. And speaking of our minds, we did a video not real long ago where you can check out Andrew Huberman is just kind of going through the impact of how our minds are designed and how that corresponds to spiritual practice that we do. So check that out. Hope that helps. See you next time.